Hey legends, and welcome back to the Sim Racing channel, where we're sticking by our word. A few videos ago, I told you guys we'd be doing a full grid race here at Portland International to test out the new GTE balance of performance. So here we are at Portland International, testing out the GTE balance of performance. In order to knock out two birds with one stone, we've got the race set up at extreme time acceleration, so that across the full 12 minutes of racing, we'll be seeing the time of day progress from 6 AM to 6 PM. So not only are we checking out how the GTEs race on this new track, but we also get to appreciate the new graphic shaders and materials while we do it. Be sure to hit that sub to stay up to date with all major rFactor 2 updates, including the upcoming GT3 balance of performance. For the time being, let's get straight into the racing. So a bit of an unconventional start for a race. We're beginning in the wee early hours of the morning, 6 AM to be specific, and that's primarily to show you guys the long shadows, the new lighting effects, the new shaders and the new materials as they sort of take place over the course of a full day of racing from dawn till dusk. So time acceleration is set to 60 times. What that essentially means is that each minute of race time corresponds to an hour of real world time, quote unquote. So you're going to be seeing an hour pass, more or less, per lap of this race. Got some very long shadows being cast over the track. I think it kind of looks amazing with the trees sort of stretching out over the track surface. I've set up a quite ambitious grid of races. I think there's 30 race cars in total. We're position 15 at the moment, fighting our way through the midfield. And in case this hasn't become obvious to you by just watching this race, I was having so much fun doing this. I guess for a change, I was really happy that I didn't do the commentary in real time, because it let me focus on, the actual racing itself, trying not to bin the car, trying to actually get decent laps, lap after lap, rather than sort of using half my brain power to talk to you guys. Not that I dislike doing that or anything, but it's quite demanding to do both at the same time. I'm trying to cut this corner as aggressively as I can without touching the inside wall. I got that tip from one of you guys, so thanks for that. Turns out you can be quite aggressive with the track limits on this one. And the more I drive Portland, the more I appreciate it. It's sort of like a less bumpy Sebring to me. I don't know, I guess American tracks have this sort of style to them, don't they? I could see why driving Indy cars or maybe even just lower powered open wheelers would be super fun around here. I reckon Formula 3s would probably be amazing. You can see the sun rising in the sky, a lot of glare coming off the track. I don't know how realistic that is per se, but it looks very cool, shining off the dashboard there. The interior materials are definitely improving, and as you guys can see, the car models are really impressive in rFactor in the new generation. So having just come off doing my big AMS2 1.0 review, I can say that the car models in rFactor at the moment are more detailed than even AMS2 running on the Madness engine. Super impressive. And I still get very decent performance. I know it's very spotty for you guys, some of you get good performance. Others get less than stellar performance, but on my PC has always loved rFactor. I love the way these GTs look. The new liveries, of course, as well, have come in from the 24 Hours of Le Mans race that they recently ran. That Porsche just looks ballistic. I'm not much of a Porsche guy, but man, give me the GTE and I won't complain. I guess probably because it's mid-engine rather than rear-engine. Takes away the Porsche-ness of it all. So AI, you know how it is in rFactor. There are some slower corners like that one where you consistently at least gain one place. They just don't know how to defend the inside. You can always cut in and just gain a position no matter what. I've cranked up the AI to 108, I believe, out of 120, and they're giving me an okay race. They're still, they're surmountable. I'm getting into the habit of going partially off-road in that chicane right at the end there. It's taking me back to my rally driving roots. If anyone from 397's watching this, maybe consider doing an off-road simulator. We need a rally game. We don't actually have a realistic rally game. If you don't count BeamNG anyway. So the laps aren't phenomenal as I'm negotiating this midfield. Getting up into what looks like 6th position now. We've done quite well. The AI really needed to be cranked out on this track in order to race me well. I don't know whether that's because I tuned the 488 and I've gotten it performing about what is it, about a second a lap quicker than I could before, a second and a half. You know how I am with tuning. I love that sort of stuff. Should get into like race engineer simming rather than race car driving simming. Sun's still gradually moving across and we're getting that nice blue hue. It's switched from the dawn orange into that sort of midday hue. It's one thing I've always loved about rFactor is its white balance. It's always felt the most natural to me out of any game, with the exception of maybe Gran Turismo, which I always thought had the most photorealistic lighting, Gran Turismo Sport. Not today, mate. Not going to run me off this track. Coming back in, brake at the 300 board, try and cut that corner without binning the car in front of me. Nice Aston, which actually quite impressed me when we tested out all the new GTEs. Aston performed really admirably well. I think if I gave it a proper tune, it could probably go toe-to-toe with the 488. Though it doesn't really sound or look as good as the 488, in my opinion. So 397 was saying that they've got another slight BOP tweak coming for the GTEs, as well as new default setups for you guys. So that's really exciting news. It seems like they're becoming much more responsive to the community. It's always great to see them engaging on these videos and telling us what their plans are. And it's really, really good that they're listening to some of the community feedback, and I think that's one of the important things about keeping your feedback constructive. If you're going to go into a game or go onto a forum and just say, oh, this sucks, it's the most horrible thing I've ever seen, the AI is useless, the GTEs suck, and you know they can't compete with the GT3 cars, don't buy, blah blah blah, that doesn't really help anybody. What tends to help is doing something like, let's take the GT3s for instance. You go and you say, look, fundamentally I really like the way that these drive, but I don't like the fact that I need to minimize tire temperatures, that I can somehow drive the car with minimum rear wing and detaching the rear sway bar in order to compensate for that, and I gain or rather lose 2 seconds per lap. That shouldn't be drivable, you know. Why am I able to drive the car with 1 TC? Whereas in real life, I'd only be able to get away with doing like 2-3 for this kind of, you know, for a GT3 or whatever. So just make sure that there's some semblance of sense to what you're saying. It doesn't help to just hate on something ceaselessly. And I think we can see that reflected here. I mean, these GTEs are so fun to race now. Coming up to first. And we have it. 108 AI, eat your heart out. Smashed by Ohms. So I think I might have to revisit this track with the AI closer to like 115 or something if I want a proper race. It seems like they're lapping primarily in the 110s, and I think now that I finally have a clear field in front of me, I'm going to start aiming for the 109s. I'm sure 108s are possible if you're actually a good driver unlike myself, but 109s are what I was consistently doing with hot lapping after the tune on the car. I'm sure more, or rather less, is possible. Should you really delve into the tuning? There's so much to be gained if you just tweak a car properly. But yeah, that being said, super glad that 397 seemed to finally be listening to the community again. I can't wait until the new UI is finished so that we get more of this sort of stuff, more modernization of old content, more graphical improvements. I have to say the one thing that does sort of worry me about its longevity is that, cool, like we're playing catch up now and it's great, the game is looking so much better than it did at release, especially with the licensed content, but we're jumping into the next gen now. The PS5 is just around the corner, Gran Turismo 7, and I mean, they're using RTX. We've got ray trace lighting coming to racing games soon. That's where graphics design is operating at this point, and we're still catching up to DirectX 11 style shaders here in rFactor land. And you know, while that's great and everything, I think that was the lap of the session. Actually, I was kind of speeding up ahead, trying to create a bit of a gap between me and the guys behind. But yes, with the graphics, I always feel like they might be one step behind whatever's in vogue, and that may hurt the game's marketability. Not that it's ever really going to become the most profitable mainstream game, it's just way too unforgiving and way too realistic for that. But one thing that was super heartening was reading an interview with Marcel recently where he mentioned that they're planning some fairly substantial core physics tweaks to this game, and that's something that always excites me so much. So one thing I didn't know and still don't know in a sense, because I know that the handoff from ISI to 397 happened some years ago. I know that the game kicked into a different gear then. It went more from like physics engine development into populating it with, you know, meaningful content that people wanted to race, the endurance packs, the laser scan tracks. It's taken the game to a whole new level, unmistakably, absolutely amazing, adding chassis flex into the modeling, etc, etc. But I'd always wondered whether 397 had, whether they had the programming, I suppose, clout and the knowledge to tweak something as fundamental as the tire model. Because as you guys and I both know, while the tire model is amazing in a great many ways, in others it has some substantial drawbacks, such as the fact that it always seems to operate better at minimum tire pressures. There's no tire failure being modeled, so you can't actually, you can't go over a horrible curb with cold tires and just utterly destroy them, which is something that you have to worry about in real life. And it's something I'd like to see more and more in this game. Things that are going to be more unforgiving over a long stint of endurance racing, you know. Watching tires tear up, things like that, you know, the kind of thing that you see from BeamNG. That little skip there was unfortunately a little technical byproduct of me being on Windows 7. And yes, I know Windows 7's borderline obsolete at this point, but, you know, cut me a break. I'm a pragmatist. Turns out Shadowplay doesn't like recording video files any larger than about 4 gig, I think, at a time when you're on Windows 7, so whenever we do some of these longer form videos, you'll generally see one of those skips in there. So if you look back through my 24 minutes, 24-hour endurance races, you're probably going to pick up on that. My heart burns for you if you really have the time and the patience to do something like that. I'm sure you have much better things to do with your day. But yes, I really kind of got caught up on that tangent, sort of talking about where things may go. I hope that was relevant to you guys. I think the race is pretty self-explanatory. I didn't particularly want to commentate what was going on, you know. You could kind of see it. AI were, you know, they're raceable. They need some work, and that's something else that Marcel was talking about, is that the AI has got some planned updates on the horizon. So again, I'm super keen to see the company finish up that new UI and finally step it on, move on to other, what I consider to be arguably more important things. Okay, race ending now. I think this is our last lap, and we can see the sun dynamically coming down in the sky, slinking down over that horizon. Shadows are getting nice and long, hues becoming orange again. So the romanticism is increasing. You can see the headlights are gradually starting to kick in. This is probably the most dangerous time of day because you're in between the headlights actually doing anything. So you might ask, one of the reasons, you know, why did I not do this as a 24-hour race? Why did I not show you pure nighttime? And you're about to see why. The game isn't particularly impressive looking at nighttime. Even still, things are a little bit flatter than you might like. I don't recall seeing dynamic shadows being cast when you illuminate cars in front of you, or at least not to a point that my eye perceives quite as realistic as, you know, let's say ACC or AMS2 games that look amazing at nighttime. As you can see, it's still very much serviceable. Portland not being very lit up other than the final stretch. But I thought a whole 12 minutes of this wouldn't be too exciting. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this race showcasing the best of the new materials, the best of the new car content, the brand new GTEs with the balance of performance, including the Portland International track, which essentially showcases where the graphics engine is at this point in time. Now, from what I've heard, the next big thing, the next big ticket item is a BOP for the GT3 cars, which we'll of course have to test out in some way, shape or form. If you guys have any suggestions, be sure to leave those down below. And in the meantime, make sure to smash that sub to stay up to date with all future sim racing news and reviews, especially rFactor 2 content, which I love and adore. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.